Geezer, hi David. Geezer and David and Dwayne. How you guys doing? Hi Val. Hi BH. Mark, how are you? Um, Mark, I know you wanted to talk about negotiation. We can talk about that some too, but uh, remember yesterday I promised we'd have a what snob day today, so we all got to be what snobs. uh, Yeah, I'm sorry, Dwayne. Hey, I'm right here. You don't have to talk about me like I'm somewhere else. Hi, Mark. Hi, Clyde. What is a what snob? That's a good question. What is a what snob? Hi, Hans. I don't know. I sort of a what snob, I guess, is there are a lot of different kinds, I suppose. I There's sort of a brand what snob. They're into their brand, and anything outside of that, they sort of stick their nose up at. That's one type of what snob. Another one is a resale value snob. Um, Buys the resale value. Other ones that aren't snobs that I know have a collection like Healer's, but Healer's not a snob. He's got all kinds of different levels of watches. I think that in sort of joking about it, it's sort of a type of having a watch, not for the sake of the watch, but for some kind of special recognition that one has for it. Um, and on the one hand, it's really sort of silly, and the reason it's silly is that the no matter how snobby you are, there's somebody who's got a better collection, and the I know Healer pretty well, and he was telling me about this guy who's got a collection that eclipses everybody he knows, and his collection is pretty hard to eclipse. But he's not a snob about it. I mean, he's sort of more of a sharer of things, and that I think would contrast with a snob. Some of these silly little cracks about how bad a watch is. Oh, that's a terrible watch, or something like that. Especially the drama queens who like to make a big point of it. I think they have a type of snobbery that is more stupidity than snobbery. I'll put it that way. If you have someone, let's say you got a guy, he's got 5 watches, including a Roger Smith, a Kerry Vuitton Philippe Dufour, Groenfeld, and one of the higher up FP Jorns. And anything less than that, he sort of sticks his nose up to, I think would certainly be a snob. But you don't have to have a really good collection to be a snob. You can just be a jerk and be a snob too. I don't know. What do you guys think of snobs? Who we got here? Flip and Zippo, Mr. Gumby and Junior and Brian. Hey, Eddie. Let's see. Hey, Eric, how are you? Um, David Nowshed. Okay, slab, a person who believes that their taste in a particular area are superior to those in other people. A musical snob. Great example. I mean, that's a good dictionary example, and we could simply substitute musical for watch, and I think have that. Hi, Bruce. How are you? In-house snobs are also a big thing. Well, Val, uh, let's clarify that, okay? The in-house part of it depends on a couple things. One, I'm a snob about in-house only when somebody's lying to me. I mean, this is how come I get so mad at companies like IWC and Breitling. Here they got they call it Caliber, XYZ, and it's ETA. All right. Now I get snobby about that. On the other hand, you can have fairly humble in-house, and in fact, you can have a really crummy in-house. And see no reason either to, talk about it like, well, that's better than an ETA. Not necessarily. I mean, like, look at the watch movements we've been talking about. We've been talking about, you talk about snobs, we a Vaucheur, um, a Langenhain, or a Rolfheim, or Agenor. Now, any one of those is going to be better than most in-houses. I say, wow, what about a Patek Philippe, and what about this, and what about that? Yeah, okay, what about them? Tell me something they've done new. I have our Rolex, poor Rolex. I don't want to pick on Rolex, but there's if you have, just because something's in house and you're snooty about it, that's not, I don't think, worthy of one who's a watch collector. I think somebody who weighs a watch's value by how it makes them look is that would come under a snob, versus someone who weighs a watch in terms of how much fun they can have with it. If you can't have much fun with your watch that you buy, because you might just like it. I like this watch, and I don't wear it as much as probably I should, because I have so many other watches I have fun with. So to me, if somebody has a cheap watch and they love it and they have fun with it, uh, that's great watch collection. It's hardly snobbery. I like the people who, the ones that I just find delightful. They have sort of a collection that reflects everything about them, their financial standing and everything else, and I just love it. All right. Now, if somebody gets poo-poos at because they say, oh well, that's a crummy watch, maybe they got a lot to learn about that. Um, so I think that we all need to be better than little things like, oh, well, it's in-house or not in-house. The question is not in-house or not in-house, but is it a good movement or not? And to me, if they lie about it, then it's crummy. Just because that's the way they're wanting us as collectors to pay way too much for it. Hey, Chi-Town, True Junior. Let's see. Insecurities, I agree, are just plain stupidness. Hey, Raj, a snob is someone who has a collection of top watches and lets everyone know about it. Well, depends on how they let them know about it. If they do it to to demean another person's collection, then yes, that would be a snob, and a jerk. Uh, Snobbery is the act of believing your taste is the center of the universe. Yeah, that's it's that, I think, is another thing that's important, that nobody else. See, the thing is that the most fun part is still learning about neat watches. Okay, if you can't, and I warned you, I had my Seiko 5. I bet I can rattle off more things that the Seiko 5 had when it was new, that was innovation, than most other watches that you guys have in your collection or I have in mine. So beware the Seiko 5. It's sort of like, doing like this to a vampire is that, okay, here's my anti-snob thing. Hold up my Seiko 5. Thomas, how you doing? Sean? Okay. David, your definition is okay. You got to watch your language though. This filters out everything that Archie says. It filters out. So, hey Jeb, what's up? I believe I have good taste, but also happen to be right. A snob. There you go. Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong. And see, well, to me, you define, I suppose, what yourself is wrong. Let's say you have there's this guy I keep bringing up again and again because he's such a delight to listen to, and he's an Omega freak. But And by that I mean he just loves Omega and everything about them. And when he's talking about them, his tail is wagging, and different kinds and different versions. Oh my God, and of course, he's got all the numbers and everything. And Omega numbers are pretty big. They're not nice little ones like Patek Philippe has and Rolex has. And I think that his joy and his delight is what counts, not the fact that he said, well, I got an Omega and that's better than your Rolex or your whatever you have. Let's see. Okay, one-upmanship. Here's how to have one-upmanship. Show up with a humble watch, okay, for several days, and then take your very best watch and show up with it like nothing happened. That's the way to shake up a snob. Make sure it's superior. But there are all kinds of ways that have it. It's maybe I don't know if any of you are lawyers beside Clyde, but my son does a lot of work with attorneys. He's an expert witness in LA, and he does a lot of that. And he was telling me about the watches that they have, and sort of like they're trying to do a lot of one-upmanship. Now, a jury may have no idea what the guy's watch is, but the other lawyers do, and so they'll have one or the others, and it's sort of an interesting little game they're playing. Like I said, I don't know whether that's all lawyers or just the ones that he sees in the work that he does. Not everyone can shop at Christie's. Everyone can shop at Christie's. They just can't afford it. And by the way, too, Christie's doesn't have the best prices. There's a difference between a snob and an enthusiast. Yeah, I agree. There's a huge difference. An enthusiast, I think, would look to find out what other people are enthusiastic about. That, I think, is that is a huge difference. Hi, Air Toad. What's up? I've been wearing my Seiko 5 for the last couple of days, but haven't ever done the research on it. Is there a particularly good source for the history of it? I tell you what a really good source is. You have to dig around for it because the typical watch site. If you go to the Seiko site and you dig around, you'll find out they like to do things in 5 with the Seiko 5. Well, it was the first this, the first that, the first boom, and the model I got is as close to the 1963 model as I could find, and brand new. You can get them. I got it for under 100. I think I paid 97 for it at Long Island Watches, and it's just been doing great. It was an hour late yesterday because I set it an hour late, and it doesn't have a winder. You got to shake it up, which I think is another cool thing about it. And I like the 4 o'clock crown on it. Just all kinds of things that make it fun for a long time. This guy is, it's odd, it's different, it's bent, so that makes it fun. But I think what Clyde said is really good. There's a difference between a snob and an enthusiast. An enthusiast is that like the guy I mentioned, the Omega collector. He's an enthusiast. One of the things that sometimes an enthusiast may seem like a snob, and here's why. Let's take our the Omega guy, and someone says, "Wow, look at this cool Rolex I got," and it was like, "Oh wow, look at my new FP Journe," because he's interested in Omegas. He's not interested in some of these other things, and to some that may seem to be a snob. He's just not. It's just what what you like. Lots of watch snobs don't even care about horology anyway. They just care about, and that's something that's exactly right. And I think they lose a huge amount because of that. They lose a great deal. Uh, it's sort of like, oh, I don't know. Oh, someone who is, I suppose, if somebody gets put down because of the watch they have, they show up with their wearing their G-Shock, and I think it's really, it's the neatest watch in the world, and somebody says something snotty to him, that, oh, I'll get a good watch, and goes out and gets a whatever he thinks is a good watch and shows up again, and it's better than the other person's. That's sort of the making of a snob, I suppose, who's trying to get back. And again, I think that's not the best way to do things. Unfortunately, lots of people who are not really enthusiasts see themselves as enthusiasts, like amateur dealers, snobs, hype beasts. Okay. Hey, Truth Fears, how you doing? Uh, Clyde, you got to watch the Archieisms. They keep getting snuffed out. Boy, I tell you, they've got. They have. This is all of the things that they tell me on the what they filter out. Anything that's hate talk or anything that's bad language and stuff. So the trick is to up your vocabulary so it doesn't understand it. Let's see. I don't know what. Tell me about this, Jeb. What did Zane do to Archie? You guys told me the other day who Zane guy was, and I guess he does something. Well, Brian, Snob is someone that is not able to appreciate a timepiece if it doesn't come. Yeah, that's a good example, Brian. Is the chat messed up for anyone else? I have to manually refresh comments. It seems okay here. Doggone it, I forgot my new microphone. Well, this is the built-in microphone on the Mac. I hope it's okay. Maybe I wonder if that's it. Hi, GMT Master, Dr. A and B. Let's see. On the one hand, coronavirus is in control, and on the other hand, more new cases rising in areas where they were lifted. Yeah, are lifted too soon. Today was one of the first days that I went out with things lifted. And I went to my 84-year-old watch repair guy, and he was in great shape. So that hadn't seen him since this whole thing began, and took him a watch to work on. And going out, there was the first time I've seen traffic. I mean, really a lot of traffic in a while. And had to stand in line, and they had all of these things, not to the watchmaker, but somewhere else at the grocery store. And you know what? I like the isolation. Let's see. Call me a emperor. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd heard of the guy. I guess he's a wealthy watch collector or something. I don't know. I suppose I've got to catch up on some of my stuff. Okay, I see. Okay, Hans. Yeah, we can't use Archie talk. If we do, it gets. Maybe that's what you're seeing. Is you're seeing stuff get blocked because of some of the language used. Like I said, I don't set the thing. It's set by YouTube. And so, just if you want to call something sort of a junk watch, that'll work. But to call it some other kinds of things, they have all of these things they're working on. So it'll give us all a chance to practice our vocabulary. I tell you, there's a thing that was Shakespeare insult. That's a place you can get things. I got 2 watches this week. Oh, you got a couple Seikos and a Seagull. You know that Seagull 1963. I've heard a lot of people just love that watch. Uh, Load up the minivan with goats and take them on a road trip. Yeah, I tell you, it's so funny though. I went out today to go to the watchmaker, and on the way back, I thought I'd stop by the grocery store. And so I had my mask and my gloves and all of that stuff. And so I go to the grocery store and going to walk in, and they said, and there I see this line that almost around that goes around the corner of the store. So I got in line, and it's really a lot of weird things happen. My iPhone doesn't recognize me anymore with a mask on, and just a bunch of stuff was going on. Also, too, there are 2 watch deals that I put a thing in on, and I just got the other one today. So it wasn't no dice. It was like the watch is no longer available, and so. Well, that's okay. That's another thing too that we had talked about this morning. A lot of you guys were here when we were talking about it. Hi, Orange Chan. The and one of the things was that if you miss a couple watches that were for sale and you didn't get them, that's okay. There's always another one coming along. I'm really trying to figure out what would be a watch I'd really enjoy getting next. And they had a couple I thought I would like, but I don't know if I really would have or not. The thing about not being a watch snob is that you have more decisions to make. You really do. Start taping gray hair on the outside of your mask to yeah. Hey, I'll borrow some cashmere from the goats. I don't watch AC3, and I've said many mean things about him in the past, but I feel for him. COVID is a real hard on the homeless. Oh man. Every now and then, I go and take a look at Archie, see if he's okay, what he's doing. But it's the same old, same old. So I'm wearing no watch today. Oh, geezer, you're gonna have to go stand in a corner if you're not wearing a watch. But my no watch is still better than your watch. Yes, that's a good one. So can we say excrement? Yeah, hey, that worked out. Air toad, that one worked out. But try to use something else. Let's see, I find people get caught up on brand rather than the quality. I agree. There's quality is a lot harder than brand. It was sort of like a Cartier, for anybody who sort of thinks more in terms of horology than anything else, may actually stick up their nose a bit at Cartier, myself included. Well, when what's her name came along and won the Watchmaker of the Year, anybody with a hyphenated back name, I have a hard time remembering. I don't know why. I should be able to. Seems like every anthropologist had a hyphenated last name. But anyway, now I lost my point. Okay, let's see. He's immune, like cowpox, immunicized smallpox, or a virus. Oh, it's hard. Has anyone seen the AC3 documentary? I think, oh man, here we go. We're talking about the wrong thing. We ended up talking about Archie. He's a guy trying to get by. I'll put it that way. That's that's all he's trying to do. Like I said, at one time, several years ago, he had some really good stuff, and then it sort of went sideways at one point. Has anyone the documentary? Not voluntarily. Hans, now. Hans Hans worked it out with an emoji. Ugh. Okay, hey John, what's up? Let's see. Oh, NS something. I tell you, maybe you better have a word with Clyde off to the side because a lot of what may appear to be isn't with our friend Archie. Hey Tippy, what's up? In business, quality is number one, marketing is second. Okay, that's good to know. Cartier is like Rolex for white chicks. What? There is something to that. I was on a cruise a couple years ago, and this gal comes up, and she had a balloon blue, and I don't know whether it was a quartz, an ETA, or one of their in-house ones that they now have with balloon blues. But I asked her about it, and sure enough, she knew that the Duchess of Cambridge had one day had said hello to people, and there was her balloon blue, and so that thing just went crazy. I went to the Cartier store in New York. They have this great big one there, and I asked them about that, and oh boy, they knew right away. Oh yeah, this is the one that she wore. Yeah, Brian. Yeah, a Cartier tank. Now a Cartier tank is, the difference between a Cartier tank and a Cartier Must Cartier is like the difference between a cheap quartz and a Philippe Dufour. Those two. They're the same brand, but they're totally different. And that's another thing. I think that's important. Why a brand should not be dismissed totally, uh, because if you do so, I mean, but brands like Cartier, you have to really cherry pick those. You've got to go and sort of like what's behind it and what's this one. But a tank, those are great watches, and historically, and because they were modeled after a tank, and so you people who refer to Rolexes as tanks, they got the wrong one. It's the tank that's a tank. Are you saying AC3 is a phony? I would never have guessed. You'll be saying that he does not own any of the watches. No, it's NS something. It's a little more complex than that. Okay, um, it's it's something that it's just a little different than that. I mean, it's nothing lamentable. I'll put it that way too. Yeah. Uh, okay. Geezer, Archie's old videos were actually not bad. No, I agree. Those vids with the piano, they were still not that information, but at least watchable. Yeah, he had some early on when I was early on collecting and saw some of his videos. They weren't exactly very deep. And in other words, they weren't that substantive, but there was some substance to it. And Santos, Dominoes, yeah. Difference like Chopard and Chopard LUC. Yeah, Val, that's a good example. That's a very good example. A watch I've always liked is I'm going to say it wrong, so forgive me. The Miglia Chopard. I love those watches. I even like the bands. Have you seen the bands? The bands are tire tread bands on them. I think those are really cool, but um, yeah, maybe I am a snob. They don't tell you what's inside. Hi, Suma. How you doing? Grand Seiko versus base Seiko model. Yeah, that's another great example. I was thinking of that. You know, all of the good ones are are called Seiko, the Grand Seiko or the quartz models. Knows very little about. Yeah, I know. You know what he does know about though. He knows about sort of showmanship. I'll put it that way. And he's got a big, huge number. There's another guy who has a big, huge following, and because they have something about them that people enjoy. And I don't know if it's watch collection, but it's something. Um, that's the first. The words quartz and Philippe Dufour in the same sentence. Sorry about that. Let's see. Yeah, well, not necessarily. That a spring drive quartz, or that's simply a different way of providing energy to the quartz. Oh, a few snobby acts. I thought I had. After all, I didn't I flash this, Mark? All right. It's got all kinds of good things about it. Have I seen a new blue Santos? No, a lot of the see this is something else too, especially with Cartier. Cartier started off with some really great watches like the Tank. And then they went through the Musty Cartier phase where they were just awful. And then they sort of entered into a guess what's ticking underneath this phase where they had God knows what. And then I think Caspi, whatever her name was, who is really sharp, and she's did a lot of stuff. But she was a watchmaker. But let's face it, she was fighting the bean counters. It wasn't like, okay, everything's going to be great. That never works out. Yeah, yeah, it has something right. Yeah, he's that's really funny. He's got everybody thinking he's just acting like a moron. He really is one. That's so funny. Oh man, let's see. Yeah, I agree, David, with that one. Um, okay. And positioned oneself as opposed to Aussie Bogan is a step on the highway to horological snobbery of the highest order. Okay. Uh, yeah, Raj, I think you're right. There's a certain type of entertainment value. And that's fine. Who's the other guy that they call the rat? And which is unfortunate because I don't think he's not a rat. You have to take Archie started that, then they call a poor guy the rat. But he's got a gigantic following, and he whatever uh, he's doing well. It's it is what it is, and that's if I told his disciples to drink Kool-Aid, they all would. I don't know. I, I don't know if it's anything any more than someone's just screwing around. I think the biggest problem with Archie is that he is so closed-minded and incapable of listening to people. Geezer, I think what a lot of people believe because they're doing well in terms of what he wants to do well in, and that's getting as much money as possible. Why should he listen to anybody else? That's sort of the way I would see it. For the most part, though, I don't worry about it. A lot of people are really concerned about it. And I figured, well, he's doing what he's doing, and he does it in his way, and it's unique. And if people want to go there, who is anybody else to say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that"? I don't know. I've got. I suppose that if people think that's what watches are about, that would be offsetting. Hi, Matthew. But I don't think they do. I think that it's sort of like people pass through that. And, there's all kinds of other, people where they talk about watches, they can really talk about different things. Just out of the rat. Classic watch YouTuber beef. Honestly, it'd be nice for everyone to get along, but I enjoy the drama while it lasts. Matthew, that is what more people like. There's somebody who may be here right now who often gets into those things. I don't know why. I don't know. To me, look, it there's it's sort of like mud wrestling. It's a guilty pleasure that you have something so ridiculous going on. It's sort of funny. You know, there's there are a lot of really funny things going on YouTube, and I think you let people lose. One of the things that's sort of interesting that hasn't been that good lately. I don't know if any of you are Saturday Night Live fans, but they've been having a real hard time doing it from home. And on the other hand, you see somebody pull some stunt on, so they got a series of YouTube hijinks, so they just put something out and something crazy that they did is Saturday Night Live ought to go to them for their at-home things. There are a lot of there are a lot of crazy processes and things that are going on right now, and it's to me it's really interesting. Yeah, crappy. That's sewer rats. Uh, I do they really pay for advice? That's I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sort of get off on that, but no, that's a bit of snobbery. Okay, now that would be my snobbery. Like someone would pay him for that kind of advice. The grand scheme of things and his posse are all irrelevant. There are tons of 9-year-old Minecraft streamers that have more subscribers, make more money. Yeah, there's that 5-year-old kid was making millions recommending toys. That was great. Um, oh yeah, yeah, I heard about that. That doesn't surprise me. There's this just doesn't. Watching Starchy on Weekend is like sleeping with a homely person in undergrad. Everyone's done it, but nobody will admit it. No, oh, that's funny. I used to watch him. He used to say something racist every night. Yeah. Oh, that's that kind of stuff is. I don't know. It's so so stupid. Oh, I know. Jesus. I Archie is better than most of the stuff on Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu. I'm not saying it's good. What's Minecraft? Um, I like McMahon. He talks about an addiction more than the watches, which is an interesting point of view. I've watched a lot of ones I've watched, and they're really some people really put a lot into them. My favorite is I think it's called The Watches. The guy who's in, I think he's Swiss or is in Switzerland. That I like a lot, and all he talks about is watches, and that I really enjoy. The bad name. Yeah. Um, what's the most? Oh, gee, that's a good question, Geezer. What's the most snobby thing? I'll tell you what the most snobby thing I've seen, and I've seen it on Facebook, is somebody will get a new watch they're very proud of, and you can tell they're happy with it, and some jerk will come along and call it a name, and it just really that is not only sort of a level of jerkiness that is beyond what I care to tolerate, and bad manners and just plain stupidity. But there's a type of snobbery in that, and that kind of thing bothers me because when that happens, you shut down communication, and I hate that. Anyway, yeah, I know, Mark. It's devolving quickly. Well, anyway, we're out of time. Brian, wait, why is mud wrestling a guilty pleasure? Okay, that's a good one, Brian. Okay, well, okay, guys. Take care. We'll try to stay on topic next time. Okay. And uh, we'll see what we can do. Michael, thank you. That was a nice thing to say. I don't know if it was an irony or not. Okay, for the last word, we'll have NS something. The guy who made Minecraft became a billionaire from it. People with kids age will forever see it as a phenomenon. AC3 is followed by a few hundred overweight middle-aged guys. Wait a minute now. Are you sure they're middle-aged? I'm an old guy. When I was middle-aged, I watched something totally different. Okay, take care, everyone. And we'll try to stay on topic tomorrow, all right, whatever that happens to be.